Let me ask you a simple question. Are you tired? I mean, not like tired like you stayed up too late. Not tired because like you had a long week. But I mean bone deep tired. Tired of the rules changing. Tired of being told what you see with your own eyes somehow isn't real. Tired of everything, everything being framed as an emergency, crisis. Tired of chaos being called compassion. If that's you, you're not broken. You're not hateful. You're not radical. You're exhausted. And here's the part that no one in power will say out loud. Most Americans do not want a revolution. We hear that all the time. We're on the brink of a revolution. Most Americans don't want a revolution. Here's what they want. They want a normal life. And that's what we're going to talk about here in the next few minutes. I call this the normal life agenda. Well, first of all, we have to talk about what normal means, or at least what it used to mean. Normal used to mean you could plan your life. You knew what the rules were, and more importantly, you knew that they'd still be the rules tomorrow. If you worked hard, you showed up, and you did the right thing, you could build something. Maybe not a mansion, not a fantasy, just a life with stability. Normal meant schools taught reading and mathematics, history. Normal meant that parents had a say, some say, of what went on. Normal meant police enforced the law. Normal meant that there were borders. The borders existed. Normal also meant prices didn't jump every time you walked into a grocery store. Now, normal did not mean perfect. It meant predictable. And predictability is not a luxury. It's the foundation of dignity. When life is predictable, people can plan. When the rules are clear, trust exists. When the institutions are stable, families can grow. Normal life was a quiet miracle that allowed ordinary people to thrive. Nobody marched for it. Nobody hashtagged it. Nobody needed a grant or a task force. It just worked. And then something shifted. Slowly at first, quietly, and then all at once. Institutions stopped serving the public and started lecturing it. What we call common sense became suspicious. Stability was rebranded as privilege. Order was reframed as oppression. And chaos, chaos got a makeover. Disorder became empathy. Lawlessness became compassion. Failure became systemic, and limits became immoral. We were told that borders were cruel. We were told that standards are racist. Discipline is trauma. Parents are obstacles. Police are the problem. Math is biased. Biology, optional. We were also told, remember, the inflation is imaginary. Crime stats are misleading. And if you feel overwhelmed by any of this, that's not because something's wrong with the system. It's because you have not evolved yet. And here's what nobody wants to really admit. A society cannot run on permanent crisis. You cannot raise children in a constant emergency. You cannot run a business when the rules change by the hour. You cannot build trust when accountability disappears. You cannot have compassion without limits and expect stability. Chaos is not neutral. Chaos always taxes the people with the least power. And when laws are optional, criminals win and ordinary people lose. When standards disappear, effort stops mattering. And when borders dissolve, wages fall and communities strain. When schools abandon basics, it's the children that pay the price. This isn't theoretical. This isn't academic. This is lived reality. And millions of Americans feel it every single day. So let's stop pretending we're arguing about policy details, because we're not. We're choosing between two visions of everyday life. This is your vision. Stable neighborhoods, safe streets, predictable rules, schools that teach instead of indoctrinate, borders that function, work that actually means something, and a future you can plan for. This vision values three things above all else: dignity, order, and stability. It doesn't promise utopia. Oh, no. It doesn't claim to fix human nature. It promises something better: a life that works. Now, here's the competing vision: permanent crisis, endless exceptions, no standards, just feelings. Criminals and criminality endlessly explained. And at the same time, victims are quietly ignored. Parents put on the sideline. The law treated as if it's optional. And everything is urgent. Everything is a crisis. Everything is emergency. Nothing is stable. And if you question any of it, you are the problem. Now, this vision that we're talking right here, it doesn't build, it consumes. And the people who are forced to live inside it, they're exhausted. And here's the lie: that's holding this entire thing together. Because we're told that wanting order is somehow cruel, and that wanting stability is somehow selfish, and that wanting normal, like we talked about, is backward. But I'll tell you, history tells us something different. Stable societies are the most compassionate societies. Clear rules protect the weak. Predictable systems create opportunity. And order allows mercy to actually exist. Chaos doesn't help the poor, it traps them. Disorder doesn't free people, it crushes them. And if a system requires constant instability to justify itself, it is not compassionate. It's failing. All right. Let me help you. Let me give you something that's going to cut through all of it. This is what I want you to remember. This is what I want you to share. Because this is the truth. They call it progress. Americans call it exhausting. Because real progress doesn't make everyday life harder. It doesn't leave families stressed, broke, and confused. It doesn't require emotional and moral blackmail just to survive. Progress should make life more stable, not more chaotic. Okay, let's reset some of these terms because I think this is important. Wanting normal is not hateful. Wanting normal is not cruelty. Wanting stability is not fear. It's wisdom. Normal is not nostalgic. It is not regression. And it definitely isn't radical. Normal is the baseline that allows freedom to actually function. And normal is now the counterculture. The quiet majority of Americans are realizing it at the same time. They don't want to burn the system down. They just want it to work again. I'm sure a lot of people who know me and some people who just met me are saying, why are you doing this? This episode today, the first one, hopefully this is the first one that you saw in this playlist, is the foundation. We're going to talk about borders, crime, education, inflation, work, family, and responsibility. Not from ideology, but from reality. Not from slogans, but from outcomes. We're going to ask a simple question over and over and over again. Does this help normal people live normal lives? And if the answer is no, it's time to rethink it. Because if you're tired, really tired, you're not alone. Because most Americans aren't looking for chaos. They're looking for dignity. They're looking for stability. They're looking for a country that works. And that's the normal life agenda. And that's what we're going to build. If this puts words to how you've been feeling, please, please share it with someone who feels it too. Because rebuilding doesn't start with shouting, it starts with simply telling the truth. And fortunately, the truth is simple. Most Americans just want a normal life.